The throne chamber of Zyrel Prime had not known silence in centuries. It echoed with commands, war reports, and the steady hum of power that sustained the greatest empire the galaxy had ever seen. The crystalline pillars that lined its walls pulsed with royal energy, storing the memories of 1,000 conquered worlds. At the center of it all sat Queen Jarveth, the eternal matriarch of the Valari Dominion. She had outlived enemies, allies, even entire civilizations. What she had not outlived was the shame of her daughter's disappearance. For more than 30 years, Princess Salith had been missing, vanished during a diplomatic mission near the edge of human space. The official story declared her dead. The Empire mourned. The Queen hardened her heart. But she never truly believed it. And now, decades later, as she stared at the kneeling human before her throne, the Queen felt something she had not felt since her daughter vanished. Fear. Beginning, the impossible truth. "My Queen," the human said, his voice steady despite the room's crushing pressure, "I've traveled across 4 war zones and violated 3 imperial borders to bring you proof that your daughter lives." Gasps rippled across the court. Jarveth rose slowly from her throne, her towering crimson form radiating controlled fury. Her 4 glowing eyes locked onto the human like targeting beams. "You dare speak that name," she said, "after I buried her among the stars." The human swallowed. "I didn't come with words. I came with a child." The massive doors behind the throne chamber opened. 2 guards entered, carefully escorting a small figure between them. A young girl. She was unmistakably half Valari, her skin faintly luminescent, her pupils reflecting starlight, but her stature, her softer features, her uncertain posture were undeniably human. The entire room froze. Jarvetha's breath caught in her throat. The child looked up at the towering alien queen with wide, frightened eyes. "My mom said you were very tall," the girl whispered. The queen staggered. "That child, how?" Jarveth breathed. The human stepped forward. "Her name is Lyra. She is Salith's daughter. And mine." Silence shattered into outrage. Weapons lifted. Psionic shields flared. Noble warlords roared in fury. "The human lies. This is blasphemy. A hybrid heir cannot exist." Jarveth raised one hand. The room fell silent again. She descended the steps of the obsidian throne until she stood before the child. Kneeling, the most powerful ruler in the galaxy met the gaze of a trembling hybrid girl. And in her luminous eyes, Jarveth saw Salith. Middle, the story of a hidden life. They were taken into guarded sanctuary chambers instead of prison. That choice alone shook the Empire. Over the next several days, the human Captain Elias Verne, a former deep space explorer, told the story the Empire had long believed impossible. 3 decades earlier, Salith's diplomatic vessel had been ambushed during secret peace talks near uncharted human territory. The attackers weren't pirates. They were rogue Valari loyalists who opposed peace with humanity. Their mission was assassination. The ship was destroyed. Salith alone survived, rescued by a human emergency crew. She had been grievously injured, her neural crown shattered, her royal biosignature damaged beyond transmission. To the Valari Empire, she was dead. To Elias, she was a wounded survivor. "We hid her existence because we knew what your court would do," Elias said quietly. "They would have dragged her back as a political weapon or executed her for contaminating the bloodline." Jarveth did not refute that. Salith chose life among humans. She learned Earth languages. Laughed. Lived freely without ceremony or chains of destiny. And years later, she fell in love. "She always knew you'd come one day," Elias said. "She made me promise that when that day came, I'd protect Lyra at any cost." Salith died during a planetary evacuation 5 years earlier. A human plague outbreak had claimed her quietly, far from thrones and wars. Her final words were a message for her mother. Forgiveness. Jarveth listened without speaking. Tears, bright silver and impossible, slid down her ancient face for the first time in centuries. The child who changed everything. Lyra spent her early days in the palace frightened, surrounded by towering alien figures and cold ceremonial halls. But she was not treated like a prisoner. Jarveth personally ordered her protection. Servants brought human toys. Artificial gravity was softened to Earth standards. Gardens were created with oxygen-rich atmospheres. And each night, the Queen visited her. Wordlessly at first. Watching. Learning. One evening, as Lyra struggled to assemble a small starship puzzle, Jarveth slowly lowered herself to the floor beside her. "You do not fear me," the Queen observed. Lyra shrugged. "Mom said you were scary, but lonely." The Queen nearly shattered where she sat today. "My daughter was always too kind," Jarveth said softly. Lyra looked up. "Were you a good mom to her?" The question struck deeper than any blade. "I was a queen," Jarveth admitted. "I taught her how to rule, not how to live." Lyra thought for a moment. "Mom said she forgave you already." That night, the Eternal Queen slept for the first time in over a century. The Empire rebels. Not all were willing to accept the hybrid child. The Valari High Council branded Lyra an abomination, proof of corrupted bloodlines and dangerous alien influence. Power blocks formed overnight. Several admirals refused direct orders. An assassination attempt nearly succeeded. A cloaked energy weapon fired during a public procession. Elias shielded Lyra with his body. The blast shattered his shoulder but failed to reach her. The palace erupted into chaos. That same night, Jarveth summoned the entire High Council. "You fear impurity," she thundered before them. "But she is the only living remnant of my blood. My daughter's final gift." One counselor stood boldly. "If she is allowed to inherit, the empire will fracture." Jarveth leaned forward. "Then let it fracture. I will not erase my own blood to preserve your comfort." The Queen executed 3 rebel leaders that night. Civil war loomed. The Granddaughter's choice. As fleets mobilized and borders tightened, Jarveth prepared to publicly declare Lyra as royal heir. But Lyra overheard everything. "I don't want people to die because of me," she told Elias, trembling. "You're not the cause," he said gently. "Fear is." The night before the declaration, Lyra vanished from her chambers. Security panicked. Jarveth tore the palace apart in rage and fear. They found Lyra in the ancient Hall of Ancestral Memory, the place where the minds of former queens were stored in living crystal. She stood alone before the largest crystal monolith. "I wanted to ask them why they're mad at me," she said softly. The Queen approached with shaking limbs. "These minds do not answer children." "But they answered me," Lyra whispered. Every crystal ignited at once. The ancestral network activated. And for the first time in Valari history, the imprints of former rulers accepted a hybrid consciousness. A child of 2 species was now directly connected to the royal legacy. The impossible had been accepted by the ancestors themselves. Ending, the dawn of 2 worlds. The declaration proceeded at dawn beneath a sky of swirling auroras. Lyra stood between her grandmother and her father. The Empire watched. Jarveth raised her royal staff. "This child carries the blood of my daughter. She also carries the heart of an unbroken species. She will not erase our past, but transform our future." Silence stretched across the stars. Then one by one, fleets powered down. Knees bent. Voices pledged loyalty. The rebellion collapsed without another shot. Years passed. Jarveth grew weaker with time, for the first time ever allowing herself to age. Lyra grew stronger. She learned human compassion and Valari command in equal measure. She questioned traditions that once went unchallenged. She forged alliances where wars had once been inevitable. When Jarveth finally passed, the galaxy mourned. But it did not collapse. Because the hybrid child stood ready. On the day of her coronation, Lyra turned to Elias and asked, "Do you think Mom would be proud?" He smiled through tears. "She already is." As the crowns of two civilizations were placed upon a single head, the universe witnessed something it had never seen before. Not conquest. Not extinction. But unity. And from that moment on, the Valari Dominion was no longer ruled by blood alone, but by choice.